Okay, I want to give you a quick overview of the Zumobot kit that you'll be getting in the mail. It'll be shipped to you. It'll be used as part of this summer program. So the first thing you'll be getting is a fully assembled Zumobot chassis, and you'll get, along with that, a Arduino Uno microcontroller board, which is this right here. This is basically the brain of the robot. You also get a USB cable for programming that connects to the microcontroller here. You connect the other end to your computer, and that's how you'll program it. Now, to put the robot together, you'll take the Arduino CPU, and you'll see that it has some pin headers built in on here. And you'll see on the robot itself what's also called the an Arduino shield. They call this board an Arduino shield. It has pins already lined up here, and those are mating pins for. So you'll take this Arduino board and you'll line it up with those pins, and it just snaps on the top just like that. And you just push down, and it's on. And then now you have a complete, ready to go robot, and your USB cable, which would connect here to the USB port for programming. Other features on here on the back side, the on-off switch here, which controls the actual motors themselves, the wheels, and there's also a push button activation that you can use in your programming. Okay, so there is some other assembly that is required. We're using, there's some built-in interface sensors here already. They have a line following sensor array on the bottom, but we're also going to use a proximity sensor. And then so these items over here are related to the proximity sensor that we're going to add to this robot. So the way that is done is you'll take your Arduino board, and you'll notice in the Arduino board there are two holes on one side of it. You can see these here, and you're given a bracket. There's a bracket and some nuts and bolts here. You take that bracket and you're going to mount it into those holes. There's also some bushings that are provided here, which you can't see very well because they're white, but they're little spacers. And you need those spacers because there's some soldering, through-hole soldering that has occurred on this board, so you need to raise that bracket just slightly. So you'll need to put this bracket, mount this bracket through those holes with the spacers in between. Whoops, can't see it that way. With the spacers in between, and just screw that down on there. And then we're going to mount our proximity sensor, which is this guy. We're going to mount it to the bracket. So I've done that already. You can see what it looks like. You can see what it looks like in the end once you get that done. So I've mounted that bracket. You can see the spacers in between. You'll need a little bit longer screws for this. You'll need like the 1/2-inch screws to be used for this to go through the spacer and through the boards. And then we've mounted the proximity sensor itself to the bracket, and then you can adjust it slightly left and right or up and down. You can see how that's just bolted on with the smaller screws here, smaller ones. Okay. Then to interface it to it, we need to interface this new sensor to the actual robot itself. There's a cable provided. There's a little cable with leads on it, and there's only one place attachment, this white connector here. So let's make that attachment. And now you're all hooked up, and you have 3 wires here. You have a black, red, and a white. Black is ground, red is power, and white is the data. Okay. So now we'll take this and we'll add it to our robot. Get it turned around here. Make a connection, and we'll add him to the robot. And then what I didn't point out, let me take this off real quick. On your robot, on the Arduino shield, the main motherboard of the robot, in the upper corner here, this is where we're going to connect that proximity sensor. There's a small 3-pin header here that we've added, and that's where you're going to plug in these 3 pins, the black, red, and the white. Now, if you're a trainer and you received your kit before everyone else, that header is not in place, and you'll need to solder it into your board. So you'll need to take this apart. You need to take the plate off here, and you'll need to take the board off and flip it over, and you'll need to solder this in. And we provide that little 3-pin header here for you as well. So you'll need to get that soldered on so you can plug these wires in and be able to remove them. Okay, so once that is in place, and for all the teams, that will come already in place. And we'll put our Arduino on, and then what we'll do is we need to connect it to those points. So again, it's hard to see in the video here, but right in here, there's a header where you connect these pins. So we'll take them, and then you'll look closely in order, but the order is ground first, which is black, and we'll push that pin in. Be very careful of pushing in, and then the red is the second one. The red is second. I'll slide that in, and the third one is the red is second. And the third one is the white, which is the data. Now you're going to wind up with a lot of extra wire here hanging out. So rather than trim it, since these already have pins on them to be used in the connector, you can take this loose, and we can just wrap it around here, and not covering up the proximity sensor itself, but you can maybe wrap it around a few times. And re-plug that in and kind of get it out of the way. And you can see you don't want to cover up these 2 eye holes here, which are the actual sensor itself. You can see that. So just wrap it around, get it out of the way. You got it plugged in, and now your robot is ready to go.